So it is May 27th, 2024, and it is my rebirth day. I am celebrating 1 year ago today. I received a Bufo ceremony, and it was the most powerful experience of my life, and I feel a pull to share the story today, for myself, but also for anyone who may receive this. So it came to me very quickly. I was reading the book How to Change Your Mind, and I had just read the chapter where he describes his 5-MeO-DMT Bufo experience, and then less than a week within that, a friend of mine had just had her first experience at a ceremony, and she told me about it, and I just became more curious about it. And I remember feeling in that moment, I'm going to experience this at some point. I don't know when. I don't think it'll be for a long time, but whenever I'm ready, I'll experience it. And then within less than a month, another friend offered me a spot in a ceremony. Someone had just canceled, and there was a spot open. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, here's this opportunity. Am I going to take it? And so I did. And I remember it wasn't until I had confirmed with the shamans and I had paid that then this fear and uncertainty set in. And my mind was like, oh my gosh, this is the most powerful, potent psychedelic known to humanity. Are we really going to do this? And I navigated that, but I felt confident in my decision, and I knew that I was ready, because this opportunity wouldn't have come to me if I wasn't ready. So, but it all came really fast, within less than a week, because it was, like I said, it was a cancellation, so I slipped right in. But I believe it was about a week or two later, that the first night of the ceremony came. It was on a Friday, so May 26th. And the first night was just about arriving, grounding ourselves. That night we received a lot of information, but then we also received Hapé, which is a ceremonial tobacco. That was also my first time experiencing Hapé. And I mean, right away, the experience was very powerful in that. So Hapé really just grounds you down in your body, and immediately, as soon as I inhaled, I just felt the pain that I had felt in my lower back for most of my life, most of my adult life certainly, just became so intense and so powerful, and I couldn't not feel it, and I was just grounded in that. It was so intense, and I stayed sitting for a while, and then eventually I was like, I need to lay down, so I lied down, and I remember asking one of the facilitators what I should do. I just felt like I needed guidance, because it was so intense. And she was really wonderful. She led me through the process, and I remember at one point she asked me, what is your back pain communicating to you? And I didn't even have to think about it. It was, at the time, it said to not get on a stationary bike again. I was, some of you might know, I was teaching at Studio One Cycle at the time, and I had been experiencing a lot of lower back pain in general, but my job there was just exacerbating it. And so that first night of the ceremony was when I decided I was going to stop riding the bike, and I was going to, like, it was the beginning of the end of my time there. And that was, I mean, that in and of itself was huge, because I mean, the whole process after the ceremony of letting go of that passion and that love of mine, I mean, that was an ongoing process for months. But it was so powerful that in that moment that it became very clear, this is what I need to do. So that was just part one of 3. We go to bed, and then the next morning is when we were going to be taking the Bufo itself, which is a venom secreted from a toad that is then crystallized into a powder, and then you smoke it and inhale. So we get up the next morning, and I remember feeling pretty restless. I just felt like something huge was coming, and so I just kept trying to ground myself. I remember I went outside in the very early morning because I couldn't sleep. I went outside and did some yoga and meditating just on the grass, and just grounded myself. And then we headed in, and a bit more explanation, a bit more preparation. I'm so grateful to the shamans and facilitators who led us through this experience. I really can't imagine it any other way. It was such a powerful experience that I'm very grateful with how delicately and graciously and lovingly they held us all through it. And they were up front too. I remember they explained, like, it was like Bufo is just unlike anything else. It's going to come in like a tsunami, and there's just nothing you can do but surrender to it. I'm glad that they just told it to us like it was. But there was 4 of us there that morning receiving the medicine, and we each took our turn receiving. I was last to go, and I just watched everyone else. It was a pretty peaceful experience for all of them from the outside watching. And I just kept breathing and grounding myself, and I just felt so grateful to be there. I felt so grateful to be, again, in this place of readiness, of ready to receive what I was about to experience. And then it came to be my turn. My friend I was there with, he had gone right before me, and I remember he told me, "It's so beautiful. There's nothing to be scared of." And I'm grateful. I don't even feel like I needed to hear that, but it was just reassuring. It was wonderful. But so it comes to me. I come down, and I'm with the shamans, and they tell me what's about to happen. They're going to light it, and I'm going to do a very slow inhale, and I'm going to inhale for 10 seconds and then hold it, and then exhale, and then the experience will take over. And so I remember the moment before I began to inhale, I just said to myself and truly felt in all of my body that my intention was to trust, surrender, and discover the true me. And I felt that so strongly. So then I began to inhale really really took my time with it. I wanted to receive as much as I could. And then I remember holding, and I remember already beginning to feel the sensations coming on. And then I don't remember exhaling. The next thing I remember is I'm down lying on the ground and my body is vibrating uncontrollably and pretty violently. And I remember just starting to say, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And then that changed into, it's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, let go, 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 let go. And I'm just screaming this very intensely, screaming, let go. And I remember the last time I scream it, I scream, and this is what I experience in my auditory. I scream, let go. And I feel myself get sucked out of my body. And I don't visually see anything. This is the point in the story where words cannot really explain what I experienced. But I can tell you that I then rolled over to my side and ecstatically screamed, "Whoa! Everything is so beautiful!" and I was just completely elated and in awe of what I was experiencing, what I was feeling. The words that I can say for what I experienced was that I left my body and I went to where we all come from. I went to source. I went to what we are experiencing all the time, but we don't see it because we're having this human experience. But I was reminded that we are everything and nothing. We're the entire universe having this experience. And that was what I had to let go of, was my attachment to myself. And then when I did, I just received this knowing that has been with me for the last 365 days, and it will never leave me in this lifetime. Just this knowing of that's what we're experiencing all the time, and it's so incredible and so beautiful. So I was in that for about, I say 10-15 minutes, and then I slowly started to come back into my body. I distinctly remember the sensation of pain coming back into my body, and I remember I'm like but it all the parts came back into my body, and I was overall just so grateful and in awe of the experience that I had received. And I remember looking around at everyone and I was just so, again, elated is the best word I can. I was so happy and so grateful and just in awe of everything. I remember looking around at everyone and being like, oh, like, we're all the same. Like, we all are in on this together. Like, we're all having this experience, and everyone was just kind of like, yep. Oh, it was so incredible. I do remember also there was a moment where my mind came in and like started to try to understand what I experienced, and it couldn't. so it immediately started to like pick it apart. It started to like try to take away the experience from me, and essentially just like, we can't make sense of what just happened, so we're going to try to make you believe that it wasn't real. And I could feel it beginning to take it apart, and I didn't want it to do that. So I remember I turned to one of the shamans and I said, oh, can I let go of the need to understand? And she just was like, yes, you absolutely can. And I'm so grateful for that moment, because we embraced, and I just felt that. Like, I felt like, no, like I'm not letting this experience be ruined. I'm letting go of the need to understand, and that's okay. And so I remember shortly after that going outside to the beautiful, there was a beautiful forest outside, and there was a nice grassy area, and I remember just falling onto the ground and putting my face right down next to some flowers and talking out loud to myself for one of the first times, and I remember putting my face like right up next to a flower on the ground and just talking to it, and just feeling so joyful that I could begin to express who I am, and not worry about what other people think, or worry about all these things that keep me from just being myself. And so it was so powerful and so beautiful and wonderful. And I'm grateful for that, because as we head into part 3 of this experience, this is where things get really dark and uncomfortable and really intense. So we finished off this ceremony with that evening. So the evening of May 27th, we were given Psilohuasca. So it was a combination of psilocybin mushrooms and ayahuasca. And they shared with us that it was going to be a really powerful experience, and the purpose of it and the intention behind it was to take because Bufo only lasts 15 to 30 minutes. And so it was to take what we experienced in that short period of time and extend it out to dive deeper into it and receive more of an understanding of it. And because the experience with the Psilohuasca was going to be up to 8 hours. And so as I had gone throughout the day, I had gone through definitely waves of discomfort, and as all like the parts were coming back to me, and pain and all of these different things, and overthinking and worrying about what other people think about me. It's not like these, like, psychedelics don't just take away the pain and the suffering and the overthinking and then it's gone forever. It's like, no, it shows you what's possible, and then that's part of our work in the human experience, is to, it's such a gift to be reminded of what's possible, and then every day we can do the work to get to that place on our own. And even then, it's not indefinite. It will always kind of come in waves, but we really do just get better and better as we go. But so I kind of went throughout the rest of the day, going through my own waves, and I didn't really know what to expect for the evening. And I remember going into it nervous, but also open, uncomfortable, but also just ready to receive. Like, my intention I still felt my intention very strongly. Like, I'm trusting, I'm surrendering, and I'm doing all of this to discover the true me. And so whatever comes, I'm going to receive it. And so we take the medicine, we lie down. It's 5 of us now at this point. We have one other member join us. And we were not to really interact with each other. We were on our own journey, and we were in our own spot in the room. We were all together, but in our own space. And I'm just I feel like probably the first hour or so, I'm just laying there breathing, just kind of waiting, but also just like trying to stay grounded. And one of the first things I can remember is I remember this feeling in my stomach starting to build. And I can simultaneously hear other people around me starting to really get activated. The music that the shamans are playing is starting to get more intense. And I remember, like, as soon as this feeling in my stomach started to come on, I just remember feeling like, oh, wow, something big is coming. And the next thing I can remember is I remember feeling that for a while, and then eventually feeling like I needed to purge, to throw up. And so I stood up, and they helped me to the bathroom. And I didn't vomit at all this night. I don't even know if I think I used the restroom, but more so, I sat on the toilet in the bathroom while I slowly began to lose my mind. And when I say lose my mind, I mean I began to forget who I was. I remember my memories, and my memories of my life, this life, and who I am slowly began to just, one by one, began to just leave. And as that happened, I began to spiral, and I just remember, like, as time went by, I could remember less and less of who I was. And the less and less I remembered of who I was, the more kind of freaked out I got. I just remember being on the toilet and just being like, oh no, like, oh, I can't remember, like, what? Like, I can't remember who I was. I remember saying, like, I think I was like a cycling instructor. And I remember one of the last things I fought with in that moment was, I remember my partner at the time, he had expressed to me before the ceremony that he was afraid that after the ceremony I wasn't going to want to be with him anymore. Like, I was going to change so much that I wasn't going to want to be with him. I think that also combined with the love that I had for him and have for him. I remember one of the last memories I was holding on to before I completely forgot who I was him and our relationship. I remember I could feel it, like all the other memories, I could feel it leaving. And I remember, like, I was like, no, like, I don't want to let go of this, like, and I remember just, I could feel that fighting and that resistance, and then I could feel this other part that was just like, there's nothing you can do. Like, it's leaving. You just have to let go in this moment. And so I remember not really wanting to, and it's so fascinating how I can see that reflecting in the months following this experience, just this, like, holding on to that particular relationship and not wanting to let go, and taking a really long time to just surrender to it. But regardless, in that moment, beyond my control, it left. And I completely forgot who I was. Which is pretty terrifying. I'm grateful in that moment, the shamans, I think they could feel what was happening, and so they brought me back out of the bathroom, took me back into the room where everyone was, and a lot was going on when I got back into the room. And I remembered, like, just like, I'm holding their hands, and I remember I'm just like, my eyes are so wide, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? Like, where am I? What is going on? And I will never forget this. I remember as I'm walking back to my spot. So there's this song that I used to play in my cycling classes. It's it's a song called Our Story, and then it has this monologue from Oprah talking at the beginning of it. And she says a lot, but at this one part, she says, like when you're in your personality mind and you don't really know who you are, and you don't know that we're all the same, we come from something greater, when you don't know that. So I actively did not know who I was, and I heard fucking Oprah Winfrey's voice in my mind say when you don't know that you come from something greater and you don't know who you really are. And then I laid back down in my spot. I remember everything was happening in this like crazy synchronistic way. I remember I laid down, someone like put a pillow under my head as I laid down, and a blanket was gently placed over me as I laid down. And I remember looking around at the plants that were in this room we were in, and I remember I somehow knew who the plants were. I felt safe with them, but I didn't understand what was happening. I remember in this moment, I felt like when I had forgotten who I was and just died, in a sense, I felt like I was like reborn in that moment into this reality. Like it's as if, like, I felt, I felt what I imagine a baby feels when they're being born. They're just like, what is this place? What is going on? Like, what is everything? I don't understand. And that's exactly what I felt. And then I began to really freak out. I remember first like pulling the blanket over me, and I just started repeating, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know what the fuck is happening. I don't know what the fuck is happening. And that started out like kind of quiet and contained, and then slowly just began to intensify and get bigger and bigger. And all while this was happening, the pain in my lower back began to intensify, and I just lost it. I went completely insane, and just screamed and kicked and fought and just was horrified as to what I was experiencing. And as you can imagine, it was incredibly uncomfortable, incredibly terrifying. And I felt so helpless to it all. I remember looking at the facilitators at one moment and begging them and asking them for help, and I remember they just gave me this look like, there's nothing we can do. Like, this is what you have to experience right now. And like I knew that and I understood that, but at the same time it was horrifying. And I remember after a while of this, I eventually was taken from the room we were in and brought into a separate room with one of the shamans, and then the other shaman kept coming back and forth and checking on me. And he helped me slowly remember who I was. We just kept going back and forth for a while where I just kept screaming, I can't remember who I am, or like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And he was like, you know who you are, your chance. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd just go right back into, oh no, I can't remember who the fuck I am. And then he again, I'm so grateful to him for his patience and loving kindness, because I was just a broken record. And they explained to me later on, like, that's why they pulled me away, is I was stuck in a loop and I needed help to get out of it. So thank you very much to them for helping me. Eventually, I remember it was like, again, like plants and nature were like reminding me that I was safe. I remember there was a plant hanging in this room, and I remember in a moment I was looking at the plant, and it was in that moment that I was able to like remember like, oh, okay. And before I even really remembered who I was, Chance, I had just this huge realization where I was like, oh, like I'm love. I'm love. Like that's first and foremost, I am just love. We're all love. Everything is love. And I remember just laughing and crying in that moment. And oh, it was really powerful. I want to add that all the while through this part of the story where I was screaming intensely, my friend that I had come with, he was having a completely different experience, and the more I screamed, the more he was laughing. And like in the experience, like I wasn't really even recognizing his laughter most of the time. Like it's not like I was even thinking like, why are you laughing at me or anything. Like I was so in my own intensity that's all I was experiencing. But there were these moments when like sometimes something in the music would say something that would help me remember like what it is I'm experiencing and what we're all doing here. But essentially just there was these moments when I would remember like, oh, like, okay, everything's okay. This is what I'm supposed to be experiencing. You know, something along those lines. In those moments, my friend, he would laugh so intensely. And like I remember a couple times, like he would like hoot and holler, like, and it would be the exact same moment that I would be having these remembrances and these realizations of like, oh, and then he'd be like, woo, and I just remember laughing with him in those moments, and then I would go right back to freaking out and screaming. Like it was all in these intense waves. But I remember there were moments when like I said, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I was doing there, I didn't know what anything was, but somehow through that all, I knew what plants were, I knew that I was safe with them, I knew that my friend, whenever I heard him and his voice and when I saw him, I remember somehow remembering who he was, and that just like helped ground me. And then I recognized Oprah Winfrey's voice, which came in my head. But yeah, there's a lot of, from this point on throughout the end of the night, I don't remember a lot. There was still a lot more that happened. One more really significant moment I remember. So I after I remembered who I was and remembered that I'm love, I was brought back into the room, and kind of just kept moving throughout my process. I went to the bathroom a lot, and I remember one of the times in the bathroom, the rest of the night consisted of feeling a lot of pain, a lot of like physical pain in my body, specifically around my lower back, but also like other parts of my body. Like I had double jaw surgery a few years ago, and I was under anesthesia for it, so I didn't feel the pain of the surgery, but there was like a point in the night when I started feeling pain in this region of my face, and I felt like I was feeling the pain and trauma of that. But really just feeling the pain and trauma of so much that has happened in my life, but like really feeling it because I just hadn't ever allowed myself to feel it. But so one of the times I went to the bathroom, I remember just sitting on the toilet and I was just like feeling all the pain and just like I was just in this deep place of suffering and just agony. And I remember they wanted us to be all together as much as possible because there was this community sense of like we're all in this together, and so we need each other to get through this. So I remember the shaman outside the bathroom was like, Chance, like if you're done, we need to go back. So I remember like I wasn't ready to go back, but I stood up and took some water in the sink and splashed my face and like really rubbed everything all out. And I remember I put my hands on the sink and was like in this really dramatic stance, and I looked at myself in the mirror like really angrily and intensely. But I remember in that moment, immediately when I looked at myself, I just felt this sense of like, you're this warrior and you can do this and you can do anything. And I remember I looked at myself and I like thudded my chest and was like, ooh, I can do this. And then I went back out. And yeah, and then I just experienced the rest of the night. It slowly, things started to wind down. My friend and I were both the last to go to sleep. I want to say at about 5 in the morning. And then got a little bit of sleep before we all reconvened in the morning and integrated everything we'd experienced. And yeah, I just want to take a moment to express so much gratitude to all the people that were there that weekend, the shamans, the facilitators, the other participants. I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you and your process and your support, and I'm so grateful that I was there with each of you. But following the experience over the past year, it was very hard. This year has been the most challenging and difficult, and also the most rewarding and beautiful year of my life. But I went through a lot of challenges in the months following the experience. I was the most suicidal I've ever been in my life. I've experienced suicidal thoughts since I was 18, and they've kind of come and gone throughout my life. But this was the most intense because with this understanding of, where we come from and where we go, when life would get uncomfortable, which it did a lot in the months preceding this, because it was a lot of death, in the sense of parts of me dying from this death I experienced and new parts of me being born, but a lot of resistance and fighting around that. So it was very, very tumultuous time. And my suicidal thoughts tend to come in when I get overwhelmed. How it has gone throughout my life is I get to a point where I get overwhelmed, and then my mind just thinks, this is too much. I just don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. We should just kill ourselves. That'd be so much easier. And so with this new knowing from this experience, it was almost like added ammunition to my mind. It was like in those moments of overwhelm when we wanted to end our life, it was even more intense, because it was like, what are we doing here? We know where we go, we know where we came from, we know that everything can just be beautiful all the time, so why are we even doing this? This is like, it felt almost like it was a waste of our time, and it was just so uncomfortable, and if we just killed ourselves, we just wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. And so that was really, really hard to navigate. I'm really grateful for, again, so grateful for all of the people that were there with me that weekend. I was able to reach out to them and lean on them in moments like that. I reached out to one of the participants, and she shared with me, like, Chance, it's, you can go back to that place at any time. Like, anytime you want to end it, you can. But that's not what we're here to experience. Like, if you're there, that's all you're experiencing. It's just that. Like, that's why we came here, to have this human experience, is to feel the full range of it all, to feel the pain, to feel the suffering, to feel the joy, to feel the ecstasy, to feel all of that and everything in between, to feel the boredom, to feel the grief, and just what a gift that all is. And so I'm grateful to her for sharing that with me, and I'm grateful to myself for really integrating that over the past year. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. And I share that just to really be honest and let people know that an experience like this is not to be taken lightly. I know that I was ready, and I know that I was meant to have this experience. But in my heart, I want to share with anyone listening that I don't feel this experience is meant for everyone. One of the many things I've learned over the past year is that there are other ways to learn this. There's people in my life that I've met who have this same understanding that I do, and they didn't go through this. You know, they discovered it in their own ways. And there's infinite ways. So I really want to, you know, part of me sharing this story is to share with anyone who may be curious, but also with anyone who may be wary. I strongly encourage from my heart that you be really honest with yourself before taking any psychedelic. You know, what is your why? What is your intention? And only do it if you truly feel it's from a genuine place in your heart, and that you really feel ready. If you don't feel ready, don't do it. Because if I wasn't ready, I think I would have killed myself. Like, I just have to be honest and say that. So, yeah, there are so many ways to find this knowing and this peace in your heart and in your life. Yeah. Just connecting with nature, connecting with yourself. I'm so grateful to know that I am a part of everything, that my true self is everything and everyone. Like, I'm not better than anyone else. We're all so beautiful. So, thank you to the whole universe for the gift of this experience a year ago, and thank you for everything you've shown me over the last year. Thank you to myself for being so brave and receiving and holding yourself through everything over this past year. And I truly feel and believe that things are just gonna keep getting better as we learn to love ourselves more and more. Just are constantly reminded to trust in the flow of life as it all unfolds. Thank you very much for listening, friends. I will end this story here. to ourselves, love ourselves, and trust, surrender, receive all that this beautiful life has to teach us as we continue on this journey